Now, what I'll do is we will first read the chapter. Luckily, the chapter is only 16 verses, and so it wasn't a very big chapter. What we will do is we just need two devotees. So if you can raise your hands, and we can we can read maybe 8 verses each. And I can't see my screen. If anybody is raising your hands, anybody wants to read?
I can read, Prabhu.
Yeah, please go ahead. You can see my screen, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Till which verse you said? 8. Till 8.
Great, yeah.
King Rahūgaṇa said, O most exalted personality, you are not different from the supreme personality of Godhead. By the influence of your true self, all kinds of contradiction in the Shastras have been removed. In the dress of a friend of a Brahmana, you are hiding your transcendental blissful position. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. O best of the Brahmanas, my body is filled with dirty things, and my vision has been bitten by the serpent of pride. Due to my material conceptions, I am diseased. Your nectarian instructions are the proper medicine for one suffering from such a fever, and they are cooling waters for one scorched by the heat. Whatever doubts I have about a particular subject matter, I shall ask you about later. For the time being, these mysterious yoga instructions you have given me for self realization appear very difficult to understand. Please repeat them in a simple way so that I can understand them. My mind is very inquisitive and I want to understand this clearly. O master of yogic power, you said that fatigue resulting from moving the body here and there is appreciated by direct perception, but actually there is no fatigue. It simply exists as a matter of formality. By such inquiries and answers, no one can come to the conclusion of the absolute truth. Because of your presentation of this statement, my mind is a little disturbed. The self realized Brahmana Jaḍa said, among the various material combinations and permutations, there are various forms and earthly transformations. For some reason, these move on the surface of the earth and are called palanquin carriers. Those material transformations which do not move are gross material objects like stones. In any case, the material body is made of earth and stone in the form of feet, ankles, calves, knees, thighs, torso, throat, and head. Upon the shoulders is the wooden palanquin, and within the palanquin is the so called king of Shauvira. The body of the king is simply another transformation of earth, but within that body, your lordship is situated, and falsely thinking that you are the king of the state of Sauriva. It is a fact, however, that these innocent people carrying your palanquin without payment are certainly suffering due to this injustice. Their condition is very lamentable because you have forcibly engaged them in carrying your palanquin. This proves that you are cruel and unkind, yet, due to false prestige, you are thinking that you were protecting the citizens. This is ludicrous. You are such a fool that you could not have been adored as a great man in an assembly of persons advanced in knowledge. All of us on the surface of the globe are living entities in different forms. Some of us are moving and some not moving. All of us come into existence, remain for some time, and are annihilated when the body is again mingled with the earth. We are all simply different transformations of the earth. Different bodies and capacities are simply transformations of the earth that exist in name only. For everything grows out of the earth, and when everything is annihilated, it again mingles with the earth. In other words, we are but dust, and we shall but be dust. Everyone can consider this point.
Hare Krishna.
I can go next.
Please. Please go ahead, Jagannath Gopal Prabhu.
One may say that varieties arise from the planet Earth itself. However, although the universe may temporarily appear to be the truth, it ultimately has no real existence. The Earth was originally created by a combination of atomic particles, but these particles are impermanent. Actually, the atom is not the cause of the universe, although some philosophers think so. It is not a fact that the varieties found in the material world simply result from atomic juxtaposition or combination. Since this universe has no real ultimate existence, the things within it, shortness, differences, grossness, skinniness, smallness, bigness, result, cause, living symptoms, and materials, are all imagined. They are all pots made of the same substance, earth, but they are named differently. The differences are characterized by the substance, nature, predisposition, time, and activity. You should know that all these are simply mechanical manifestations created by material nature. What then is the ultimate truth? The answer is that non dual knowledge is the ultimate truth. It is devoid of the contamination of material qualities. It gives us liberation. It is one without a second, all pervading, beyond imagination. The first realization of that knowledge is Brahman. Then Paramatma, the super soul, is realized by the yogis who try to see him without grievance. This is the second stage of realization. Finally, full realization of the same supreme knowledge is realized in the Supreme Person. All learned scholars describe the Supreme Person as Vasudev, the cause of Brahman, Paramatma, and others. My dear King Rahūgaṇa, unless one has the opportunity to smear his entire body with the dust of the lotus feet of great devotees, one cannot realize the absolute truth. One cannot realize the absolute truth simply by observing celibacy, brahmacharya, strictly following the rules and regulations of householder life, leaving home as a vanaprastha, accepting sannyas, or undergoing severe penances in winter by keeping oneself submerged in water, or surrounding oneself in summer by fire and the scorching heat of the sun. There are many other processes to understand the absolute truth, but the absolute truth is only revealed to one who has attained the mercy of a great devotee. Who are the pure devotees mentioned here? In an assembly of pure devotees, there is no question of discussing material subjects like politics and sociology. In an assembly of pure devotees, there is discussion only of the qualities, forms, and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is praised and worshipped with full attention. In the association of pure devotees, by constantly hearing such topics respectfully, even a person who wants to merge into the existence of the absolute truth abandons this idea and gradually becomes attached to the service of Vasudev. In a previous birth, I was known as Mahārāja Bharata. I attained perfection by becoming completely detached from material activities through direct experience. And through indirect experience, I received understanding from the Vedas. I was fully engaged in the service of the Lord, but due to my misfortune, I became very affectionate to a small deer, so much so that I neglected my spiritual duties. Due to my deep affection for the deer, in my next life, I had to accept the body of a deer. My dear heroic king, due to my past sincere service to the Lord, I could remember everything of my past life, even while in the body of a deer. Because I am aware of the fall down in my past life, I always keep myself separate from the association of ordinary men. Being afraid of their bad materialistic association, I wander unnoticed by others. Simply by associating with exalted devotees, anyone can attain perfection of knowledge, and with the sword of knowledge, can cut to pieces the illusory associations within this material world. Through the association of devotees, one can engage in the service of the Lord by hearing and chanting Shravanam Kirtanam. Thus, one can revive his dormant Krishna consciousness and, sticking to the cultivation of Krishna consciousness, return home back to Godhead, even in this lifetime.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Jagannath Gopal Prabhu. I'll just say the prayers to start. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyate Teshtarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you for the opportunity. I seek your blessings and I pray that it's a good use of your time. I will, we are all studying Canto 5 and we are going to do chapter 12. So I'll just share my screen once again and hopefully.
We can see your notes. Yeah, okay, it's good now.
It's better, yeah. And so we are studying Canto 5, chapter 12, and Canto 5, as you all know, is the pastimes of Mahārāja Bharata. So we'll do a quick recap of the story so far. We've had very wonderful sessions in the last few weeks. Last week was Aishwarya Mataji. She did an excellent job at covering chapter 11, but we'll just do a quick recap. So Mahārāja Bharata, as you all know, is the son of Rishabdev. Lord Rishabdev had 100 sons. He gave them all teachings of Bhagavad Dharma. His oldest son, Mahārāja Bharata, took over the kingdom after him. Now, Mahārāja Bharata was a perfect king. He performed various Vedic yajnas and was a great ruler. In fact, the country, India, is named Bharat after Mahārāja Bharata. And after his rule, he left his home and he went to the forest. There, he increased his devotion to Lord Vasudeva and he lived a very, very ascetic life. And we have all heard of the story about the baby deer that Mahārāja Bharata rescued. And then Mahārāja Bharata became very attached to this deer. He took great care of it. He nurtured it. And he eventually, when he was ready to give up his body, he was constantly thinking about the deer. And he then acquired this is him, thinking about the deer when he is passing away. And then he acquired the body of a deer and he was born in a deer family. But Mahārāja Bharata was so accomplished that he didn't forget these incidents from his past life. He realized his mistakes, and as a deer, he became very detached from all material things. In his next life, he was born into a Brahmana family. Now, to avoid the influence of society, he acted as a deaf and dumb person. He would never talk at all. And his parents were very, very concerned about him and they took good care of him. They tried to teach him, but he would act as though he was not learning anything. He would just stay quiet. Now, after his parents passed away, his stepbrothers treated him very poorly and they made him do all kinds of manual labor. They gave him the job of guarding a paddy field. Now, while doing this, he was kidnapped by a group of dacoits who wanted to sacrifice him for goddess Kali. Goddess Kali herself was so alarmed that a pure devotee like Mahārāja Bharata was going to be sacrificed that she came out of the statue and she killed all the dacoits. Now, the local king of this area was a king by the name Mahārāja Rahūgaṇa. Mahārāja Rahūgaṇa was once traveling from one place to another, and kings, as in those days, they traveled in a palanquin. And the palanquin carriers of Mahārāja Rahūgaṇa, they needed a carrier because they were short of one. They they went out searching for someone, and by chance they came upon Jaḍa. Now, since Jaḍa was very young, strong, they hired him. They thought he'll do a good job. But Jaḍa, as we all know, was not very good at his job. As he walked, he kept checking if there were any ants on the path. He didn't want to hurt anybody. And now, as you can imagine, that will make the palanquin very unsteady. Now, King Rahūgaṇa was inside this palanquin, and he was being tossed over up and down. And he became very, very unhappy with this, and he complained. The conversation between the two starts in chapter 10, which we did a couple of weeks ago. And in the beginning, Mahārāja Rahūgaṇa was very, very sarcastic. And he told Jaḍa that you must be very fatigued and old. At that time, Jaḍa spoke for the very first time and gave him what we know now as the ultimate answer. He explained the difference between the body and the soul. So as great Mahatmas do, even Lord Krishna did, in the Bhagavad Gita, right in chapter 2, he gave him all the answers. He gave Arjuna all the answers. But of course, Mahārāja Rahūgaṇa was not ready for this. He didn't understand this. But he was intelligent enough to understand that Jaḍa was not an ordinary person and he was really a Mahatma. The king was very afraid that he had offended a Brahmana. So he asked further clarifying questions. The king asked, if one is engaged in his occupational duty as ordered by the Supreme Lord, his sinful activities are clearly diminished. Therefore, if one is engaged in his occupational duty by force, he benefits, and because of which he can vanquish all his sinful activities in that way. So here, as you can see, Mahārāja Rahūgaṇa is using the Shastras to justify his material activities. He says, I am a king and I have to do all these activities. I have to discipline my people to make sure that they do their work. So Mahārāja Rahūgaṇa was thinking of this as his occupational duty. Now I'm just going to throw open a question to some of you, to all of you, is which verse does this look like from the Bhagavad Gita? Any thoughts? Please feel free to unmute and
Karmanaiva hi samsiddhim asita janakadaya. That one. Oh, okay. Sorry.
yeah, maybe that one too. But in 1847, it says that it's better to engage in one's own occupation, even though one may perform it imperfectly, than to accept another's occupation and perform it perfectly. Duties prescribed according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reactions. So he was, the king was obviously well learned, and he was quoting from Shastras. And in chapter 11, after that, the conversation continues. Jaḍa says that a wise person does not talk about material activities. He says that the Vedas, though they are an excellent source, they only talk about material subjects in the beginning, and they are not sufficient to bring us to know the truth. And the reason we cannot understand the Vedas too is because our minds are contaminated by the modes of material nature. The nature of ignorance, passion, and goodness. Now, we did this chapter too. Aishwarya Mataji did this chapter really nicely. And so one question that comes up quite regularly when we think about this is how do we balance material life and spiritual life? Now, I want to again throw it open to all of you to say, what are your thoughts about it? What is material life versus what is spiritual life? And have you thought about this, how to balance both of these? And what are your thoughts about these? Anybody, you can just unmute and speak. Are we, obviously we are all not able to have spiritual sadhana all the time. So how do we balance this? Or is this a question that bothers you?
I think Suman wants to speak.
Yes. Hare Krishna Prabhu. And the only thing I came to my mind was after reading this line was like gopis lived. They did household chores. They did everything that they needed to in their material life, but their mind was set on Krishna. So this is good balancing. Chalte firte, खाते पीते सोते, just take Krishna's name, and that's a good way of balancing spiritual and material life.
Beautiful answer, Mataji. Wonderful answer. And so I was listening to a class by Rompad Maharaj, and he was talking about how this word secular has become so popular now in culture, and it denotes activities that are not associated with any religion or and secular is considered a separation of material and spiritual things. That's why even the American government is explained as a government that has separation between church and state. So that way, one part of your life you do for God, and the other part of your life you do for yourself. And exactly, Mataji, as you said, um, that is not really um, spiritual life. And that is not the process that's explained in Bhagavad Gita. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has very clearly said, Yat karoshi, yat asnasi, yat juhosi, dadasi yat. You all know this verse, chapter 9. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son Kunti, as an offering to me. So exactly as you said, the gopis, whatever they did, they did it as a service for Lord Krishna. Now, in the same talk, Rompad Maharaj, explains that Srila Prabhupada had an example of a gold box. Maybe some of you may have heard this. The difference between a gold box versus a gold-plated box. So Srila Prabhupada used to say that in the spiritual world, everybody has a spiritual body, and hence that's like the gold box. But in the material world, the world that we live in, when we are fully engaged in the service of Lord Krishna, when we do whatever we do as a service for the Lord, then one gets a spiritualized body, which is like a gold-plated box. And the gold box and the gold-plated box are very similar. They have the same function. So right here, living in this life, Srila Prabhupada said that you can have a spiritual life, right in this material world. So now we'll move on to chapter 12. So this was the conclusion that Rompad Maharaj had, that it is artificial to make a distinction between spiritual and material. Now this is a talk that I go back to quite regularly because it's a nice talk. It reminds me all the time because I keep getting this question in my mind all the time. So in chapter 12 that we read today, the conversation between Mahārāja Rahūgaṇa and Jaḍa Bharata continues. Now Mahārāja Rahūgaṇa has completely surrendered to Jaḍa Bharata. And he also realizes that he cannot understand everything that Jaḍa Bharata has said. So he very nicely he asks Jaḍa Bharata to please explain your instructions to me in a way that I can understand. And we all know the verse in the Bhagavad Gita for this. And the king says that my body is, Mahārāja Rahūgaṇa says that my body is filled with dirty things. My vision has been bitten by the serpent of pride. Your instructions are the proper medicine for one suffering from such a fever. So Jaḍa Bharata explains that the material creations, everything that we see around us, are just combinations of the same material. Now, obviously, through science, we also know that there are a finite number of elements and everything that we see around us. And some of these things are either moving, some of them are not moving, some of them have life, some of them don't have life. Everything grows out of the earth and everything mingles back into the earth. And in the chapter, Jaḍa says that though everything seems permanent, it doesn't have real existence. It is all temporary. And all the things in material existence are like pots that are made of the same substance, earth, and they're just named differently. So this is a classic example that's used in the Vedanta that Jaḍa is using. Maybe that's where this example comes from. That clay is used to make pots, and now the same clay can be used to make different sizes and shapes of pots. It can also be made to use, to make other things. Now all of these are made of clay. Now the pot or whatever else, or the plate or something that's made of clay itself has no existence independent of clay. So if the clay is removed, then the pot is gone and the plate is gone. So this is a way for us to understand that everything here, though it looks permanent, but it all goes and ends up in the earth. And even the sun that we think of as being permanent, of course, we think of our life as being permanent in the beginning. Then we think of our country to be permanent. But we all know that all the countries that exist today didn't exist 200 years ago. Then we think that the earth is permanent, but the earth was also changed and changed around for quite some time. And then we think of the sun as being permanent, and we all know that the sun also has a finite amount of life. And the sun is also not stationary, by the way. Most people think that the sun is stationary. The sun is also constantly moving. It's moving ever so subtly. And Jaḍa concludes this chapter by saying that the absolute truth is only revealed to one who has attained the mercy of a great devotee. So what he recommends is what we are doing here today, which is he recommends associating with pure devotees. Hopefully we'll all become pure devotees someday. And then we'll have discussions only of the qualities, forms, and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So once you do that, you're all set. So while I was reflecting on this chapter and I was reflecting on Jaḍa, I was reminded of something that Chaitanya Charan Prabhu shared, and now I can't remember which talk he shared this in, or if I heard it from someone else that he said this. As you all know, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu has a physical, disability, and he needs crutches to walk. But he was also very positive about this. He said that his challenge that he had is a physical challenge, and it's very visible. Everybody can see that he has crutches, and because of that, people treat him well, and they treat him with some sympathy. But Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, in this conversation, he worried about those who had mental challenges that could not be seen. And obviously, I'm paraphrasing here, and society is not too kind to the folks with mental challenges. And it becomes particularly hard when the mental challenge is not very visible. If it's a visible mental challenge, I think most people in society still, are, I was trying to capture what would I do, is, I would either avoid or I would, at my best mental condition, I would probably sympathize. So this is something that I wanted to share, and that society can be really cruel. Now, this got me also thinking. I'll actually first pause here and get your reactions on this topic. Is this something that you've heard or thought about? or explored ever?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I just wanted to comment that that was from Chaitanya Charan Prabhu's response to that movie Sitare Zameen Par. I think that's where we
Yes.
heard. Yeah. Just wanted to
No,
comment.
thank you. Thank you so much, Mataji. That's right. That's right. Actually, I didn't listen to it. My wife Satya, somehow I don't listen to his talks about movies. I don't know why. I keep avoiding them. I've not heard a single one so far, but I should probably listen to them. And so Satya heard this, and then she explained this to me, and that just that just stuck to me, and I thought of putting this together and sharing this with you. Thank you. Anybody else? Also, thank you so much for sharing that, Mataji. That's okay. This is something.
Um, can you explain this graph again, Prabhu? Like, I think so yeah, one axis is visible to invisible,
Right.
and one axis is physical to mental.
Physical challenges to mental challenges, which are either visible challenges or invisible challenges. And what I was trying to say is when you have a physical challenge that's visible, people tend to ignore the person.
Like that.
They tend to sympathize with the person.
Mm.
And what I was trying to capture here is if it's a visible challenge and if it's it's a mental challenge, then we've all heard stories of exploitation, of avoiding people with mental challenges, and or the more people in the mode of goodness tend to sympathize, at their best. But if there's a mental challenge that is invisible, Prabhu, this is the part that I was trying to get to, and maybe may spend a little more time on today. Actually, not exactly on this, but on a related topic, is we tend to criticize or we tend to judge, and rarely, we tend to understand. But some pure souls do understand people with mental challenges.
So you're visible and invisible. I'm just trying to understand so if something is visible, I'm just trying to get the demarcation, basically the difference between. So if something is visible, it is manifesting physically, right?
Yeah, it is manifesting physically. It is, if it's, but it's also, there could be physical ailments that are invisible, like you have a stomach ache or something.
Yeah.
And there are in mental challenges, it's very clear that some of them are visible or invisible. Where if there's a mental challenge and there is, it's very visible, then society tends to recognize it as a disability. Whereas if it's a mental challenge that is invisible in the form of depression or bipolar disorder or something like that, which are mental ailments, it is either not diagnosed. It's not diagnosed because even the person who is inflicted with it may not even understand it.
Yeah.
Family members may not understand it, and it takes a long time. And as they say, it takes one to see one. And usually, the people who recognize it are the people who have gone through it themselves, or gone through it with close members of the family or something like that.
Got it.
Maybe this is obvious to me, but I didn't realize that it was. Yes. I should have spent some more time thinking about this. Sometimes at work we put these 2x2 graphs so quickly that we don't think about them as much.
No, that is totally fine. Yeah. So so something that is mental, it's definitely invisible. That's what I had thought. But yeah, thank you for clarifying that. Yes, in a lot of cases it is not identified, but in some cases it is identified. And yeah, um, yeah. Now this is clear. Yeah. So in terms of physical and invisible, right? So in all the other three graphs, there is a positive one as well, which is sympathize and understand, right? What could be like a positive way of dealing with or helping someone who has a physical but invisible challenge?
If somebody has an ailment which is internal to their body,
Hmm.
maybe it could be a headache or something like that. It is sometimes it's very, very difficult to know. But once you know, you tend to empathize with it. I can, sometimes with close family members, you'll know if they have a headache,
Hmm.
and you'll be able to help in some way or something like that. I think Leika Mataji also has her hand up.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll take her question, and then we'll also. Please go ahead, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, thank you very much actually for bringing this up. This is actually a very, very, I personally feel like this is a very important, important slide, but also like the observations that you've shared are also like very accurate. And for me personally, I mean, I've been fortunate enough. Krishna has been giving me a lot of things, but having said that, I've also gone through certain stages of these, and I've seen the judgment, criticism. I've experienced it personally, and it's actually just revealing my heart here that it's actually happened more in the spiritual circles, and it was a shock for me because that is one circle where you would expect that it does happen, or that you are, it is okay for you to like express yourself. But I've seen, like, I just wanted to bring this point up because I wanted to share some of the learnings that I have had, and if it's useful for anyone else. One is, if we see the way when we reveal our heart or any of our ailments, especially mental ailments, we should be very careful with like whom we reveal to. For example, the way, example, when I reveal it to Vaisheshika Maharaj or other senior devotees who are in the position of like mentoring, you will see that the way they perceive it is very, very different, and it almost immediately heals you because they'll give you the right direction. And I actually want to say that Gaur Kumar Prabhu and Nityakeshwari Mataji have actually like done that for me personally, and the way they and Vaisheshika Maharaj, they have handled the situation is very, very, very different from, for example, if you reveal your heart. And not to say that they are wrong, but they are not in a position to like say give advice, or in a position where they know what you need. They're reacting but not responding. So we have to be very presentable in the way when we reveal our hearts, and these things, most of them will also be like, okay, just chant more and just ward it off. But I personally don't think it works that way. Just like our habits, if we are going through something internally, something internal, like something mental, it is also something that we should like correct, fight for it, and get out of it. And if we put in our effort, Krishna will send the effort, will send the help that we need. But it is 100% up to us to like own it up, and like get out of it, but also seek the right mentorship. These are just some of the things that I wanted to just share from my personal experience, and I'm really thank you so much for like bringing this up. And this is something that I've not usually seen in lectures as much. So I just related to it a lot, and just wanted to like share it with you, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you for sharing that. I think you bring up a really good point. I think you have to, even when you reveal your heart, you have to reveal it with somebody who is, who's very mature and very, very senior in terms of, their knowledge of the shastras, and the right and the right way to be in society. Now, there was deliberately that I put this word ignore in the physical and visible. I heard a article on NPR about
Mm-hmm.
about ghosting. So This article was about, when friends share with their friends that they have cancer or something like that.
Mm.
Um, what they realized is most friends, who listen to this, they don't know how to react to it,
Yeah,
and they,
yeah.
and they end up ghosting the person who has cancer, because they
Mm.
don't know how to, they don't know how to react, they don't know how to respond.
Yeah, yeah,
So they just ignore it, or they ghost the person, and so that's something that many people have experienced. People who have had
mm,
ailments, physical ailments, they've
mm,
experienced this. So it's something
mm,
something to be aware of as devotees, is that, now, Krishna comes to us in all forms,
yeah,
and Krishna also reveals to us, you know various situations for us to grow in.
yeah,
But obviously it's a learning process. We cannot all change
yeah,
it. It will all take us
yeah,
time to go
yeah,
through.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. Actually, I wanted to mention that too. Actually, this is also one of the ways in which we can actually try to surrender more to Krishna and firm our faith on his lotus feet. But for us to like see that aspect, we definitely need right mentorship from the spiritual circle. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hi, Krishna.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any quick things to share? So I'll take the topics to something a little lighter, not but also worth thinking about. Um, and sometimes do you come across people who seem a little aloof or distant? They may not be mean, but they may just feel different. Maybe you can share from your experience, if you have experienced that, and um, why do you think that happens?
This is Suman. Hare Krishna again. Is it because they're content in themselves?
So what? I couldn't hear you. Can you please repeat?
Is it that because they're content in themselves,
Yeah, that is
not in
fantastic.
the
Yeah, if they're content in themselves. I'm surprised that you first came to that, because my first answer was is because they have envy or they have pride, and
Mhm.
and
Yes.
because I think I always expect the worst in people. But
Mhm.
that's a fantastic answer. Maybe they're content in themselves.
Mhm.
Any other reasons? Have you come across people who feel a little aloof or distant?
Aishwarya Mataji in the chat says fear of attachment.
Fear of attachment is a good one. Yeah.
Um, I mean, it is a form of. Can you hear me,
Yeah,
Haribol?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So it could be that it could be our judgment also of that person.
Yeah.
Not always everybody will be in the same mood. Even for us also, we keep swinging from one to another based on our external or internal circumstances. So it could be our judgment of that person that is causing us to think like that. Um, um, so whenever these kind of thoughts come in, the first thing we can try to do is to um, kind of, not take it personally first thing, that okay, they are avoiding me, or maybe I said something. Our mind keeps playing a lot of reasons why some person is ignoring or keeping themselves aloof, or maybe they're only doing it to me. So one thing is to not take it personally, and second thing is to maybe extend it to give the benefit of doubt for the other person. Maybe they are also going through something. Maybe assume the innocence of that other person.
Wonderful, wonderful, Mataji. Yeah.
Mm.
And this the reason I was researching this, because Bharata seemed very aloof, and he was distant. He was not talking to anybody, and we were exploring this. And so this so I was as I was researching this, I found some research by Carl Jung, the famous psychologist. And before I continue, is there anybody else who wanted to share? It could, one more word I had in my mind was also fear. Maybe they're just fearful. It's one is somebody mentioned fear of attachment, but maybe they're just afraid. People who tend to be a little introverted are just afraid of opening up to people sometimes. At the very extreme state, they're probably very afraid of people and in general. And
So there could be many reasons for being aloof. Sometimes people in public would be aloof because discussions in the public forums like parties, etc., is material, and they have no interest in talking about those topics, and they will just stay aloof.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
that's a good one. Actually, I was going to come to that next, but you hit on my next slide. So remember this, and I think I'll come to this exact point because the discussions are of topics that don't interest them,
Right.
and or they or the topics that or the questions that they have
Right.
are not are not relatable to the others in the area. There could be scenarios like this. So Carl Jung noticed this in highly intelligent people. And Carl Jung noticed that they seemed very distant, they seemed very cold, um, not antisocial, but solitary. They were. And so Carl Jung said that, I'll go to the next page, that highly intelligent people, obviously, Carl Jung used these terms intelligent and others things very freely. He lived in the 1930s, I think. I think he passed away in the 30s. So the language those days was different. But we know what he means. So Carl Jung said that this is because these intelligent folk, have learned that their authentic self emerges not in the chaos of constant connection, but by deliberately choosing solitude. So they're actually kind of being in themselves. So he called this process the path of individuation, where the journey of becoming who you truly are. So that, it is like in Hindi, in Sanskrit, there's a word called Atma Sakshatkar. So Carl Jung was also kind of hitting on the same thing. And who you really are is separate from the projections, expectations, and demands that others place on you. So usually what we become is what society expects from us. And we tend to ignore who we truly are. And but sometimes to make social connections, to have a family and to have friends, we have to make these connections, and we have to play the role of what others expect from us. So intelligent people, again, going back to Carl Jung, he says that they try to find a balance between authenticity, which is here, and acceptance, which is here, which is on this path. And this actually is, he uses this term of emotional economics, where he says that you have the choice of scattering. First of all, he says that your emotional resources are very finite. You have very limited emotional resources. Every one of us have very limited emotional resources, even though we may think that we can handle infinite emotional circumstances. That's not true. We all have very finite emotional resources, and we should be very careful how we use these emotional resources. So he says that intelligent people, they become very strategic on how they use these resources. By detaching with others, they become more connected with themselves. and then they start identifying with their own authentic thoughts and feelings. So this is the process of individuation that Carl Jung describes. Now I'll go to the next question that I had for all of you, which is, have you felt that, or maybe I'll get your thoughts, any thoughts from about this, about Carl Jung and the process of individuation.
So if I may share my thoughts again, I feel that there are two kinds of people. There's some people, they're kind of people who get their energy from externalization, from outside connections, and there are others who get their energy from internalization. And for these kind of people, they feel exhausted when they are constantly or for a long period of time with people. So why is that? I think it's a nature, your probability or the nature that you're born with, because of that. I'm one of those people who feel exhausted if I'm for a long period of time with people. I get my energy from internalization. So, but there are other people who thrive on just connecting with people, talking constantly about topics. So it's nothing right or wrong. I feel that's how their nature is.
Oh, I completely agree with you. I don't think there's anything right or wrong. Yeah. So, yes. Very wonderful thoughts, Mataji. I completely agree with you. And Sindhu Kanya Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna. Actually, Mataji just explained what I was gonna try to explain, but I think she did a much better job. So I think the exact same thing. And from the other side, I felt that I learn a lot about myself from my connections with people. And so it's very individualistic how people become more self-aware. Some people need, time to themselves, and few people to associate with who they're very close to, and that helps them, keep their mind at peace and feel comfortable and be their true authentic self. And then I feel like there's people like me who I learned the hard way that I actually, when I stumble and fall in relationships, or I connect with the wrong person, that's where I learn more about who I am and my nature, and then I can try to make myself a better person after learning from those experiences.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I think we all go through these approaches. I think I don't think it's either or, there's a connect, there is, both of these coexist in all of us. And Carl Jung also says that you have to be fully aware of yourself before attempting to genuinely connect with others. So this is his opinion. Go ahead, Mataji, and Nityakeshwari Mataji, please.
Yeah, I think that it's kind of non-different from what Carl Jung is saying, and also Suman Mataji and Sindhukanya are saying. I think there is a similarity. He's not saying completely isolate yourself from the public. It is, no matter what it is, whether we get our learnings from the external associations with people, wrong kind or right kind of people, or from internally ourselves, there is some sense of solitude that is necessary for us to reflect on what has happened and to move from there to understand who we really are. If that solitude is not given, I mean, if we did not give time for ourselves to be in solitude and understand who we really are, then we will never learn from our experiences. So even when Sindhukanya Mataji said that with wrong connections, she learned the hard way. But then unless you reflected on them in solitude, you would never be able to derive that, right? That's what Carl Jung is saying. Is not just the connection, but the solitude is also necessary with ourselves.
Absolutely. He's not recommending this. So Carl Jung is only making an observation.
Yeah, I mean, and I can also draw a parallel here is that, S.B. Keshav Swami Maharaj also says that, that every person in a year, they have to spend at least a week or so in solitude, reflecting, just no agenda, no, like, I'm going on a vacation, I'm supposed to be doing this, nothing like that, just ourselves and, doing something. It's not like, okay, I'm going on a japa, even no agenda at all like that, just being ourselves. And also like within a month, just few days, within a week, uh, like that, and within a day, just take 1 hour or 15 minutes in solitude and reflect upon what our feelings are, why we said what we said, or what are we feeling right now, what is our need, or what, connect with ourselves and try to understand ourselves better. So it's kind of parallelly, I just wanted to draw that parallel out here. Thank you.
No, absolutely. Thank you. I think that's actually a good formula for all of us to spend some time in solitude, because I think we all need that. Now, the same question, an earlier philosopher, Schopenhauer, took the same question, and then so I think we'll think through that just to do a thought experiment. Maybe we can, let me pose this question to all of you: that have you felt that you had the need to simplify or censor your thoughts, or just stay quiet to avoid awkwardness? Have you felt the need to do this, and why have you felt the need to do this, if you have felt the need to do this? Anybody?
I mean, one way to look at it, I mean, I have definitely been through these kind of situations. And even now I do kind of go through such situations in the present as well. One way is in terms of simplifying our thoughts. Um, sure, I mean, that helps you properly analyze them, and you know perhaps writing down our thoughts, and that helps. That simplification helps in understanding and analyzing our thoughts better. And then the other, censoring my thoughts, yes, that also happens when I'm thinking in a particular direction, and then I realize that no, this is not how this.
Censoring to share, Prabhu. This is more to share when you're talking also.
Acha.
Censoring to your thoughts. Do you find yourself not speaking your mind and
Hmm.
staying quiet just to avoid awkwardness?
For sure, for sure. When it comes to expressing to others, yeah, I mean, sometimes there are things that I feel strongly about, that this shouldn't be this way. But if I'm not if I'm not the right person to do it, then I'd rather just stay quiet. Or
Yeah.
maybe I will point them in a particular direction, and I'll just maybe sugarcoat it in a way. I guess sugarcoat is the wrong word. I wouldn't say sugarcoat, but at least prod them in some direction, and then yeah, because sometimes I feel if I say something out loud, that will do more damage than good. So
Absolutely. I think Schopenhauer says something very similar.
yeah.
So, I think you hit the nail on the head. He says that intelligence leads to isolation. So he also uses the term intelligence again, but we all know what he means, I think. So he says that intelligent people have to ask questions and they probe under the surface. So, so exactly what you said, you may think a lot more about what the right way of doing things is. So he says that they will notice inconsistencies, but they also quickly learn that being brutally honest or asking why all the time can make things awkward or can make others uncomfortable or just plain simple make you very unpopular. So what he says is when the human mind realizes this, maybe a first couple of times you may say something brutally honest, maybe when you're in your teens or something, and then you quickly learn that this is not very practical. The brain quickly learns and starts self-editing. And Schopenhauer says that it becomes a habit. And when the self-editing becomes too much, you end up being quiet or isolated. Now, this is perceived as being cold or as being arrogant by people who are observing us. They perceive us as being arrogant and cold. But Schopenhauer says that it's actually not arrogance, it's just exhaustion. Exhaustion from the mental effort of constantly trying to translate your thoughts so that people don't react badly. And I'll pause there. Do you end up doing that where you feel that if you speak your mind, you'll just make others uncomfortable, or you'll just make yourself unpopular.
Yeah, Krishna Prabhu, you said it very rightly. What you said before. There are two ways. I'll give an example. That if someone says something to you that's hurtful, there are two options. One is you talk back, try to hurt back. There's one choice. Other choice is that you be quiet and that get transformed and diffused to the after a few hours or a day.
Right. Yes, that's more about reacting. That's about reacting.
Right.
How to react to situations. Actually, here the question was more about. It's also related. I think it's related. I think react in brutally honest ways, or you can react in self-editing ways. I was just using the terms that Schopenhauer was using. Yes. And so, I'll just continue with this thought and then we can have a conversation. So, Schopenhauer says that, most people cannot live like this. They all need social connections. So they tend to adapt and they blend in as a survival mechanism. So they just learn, what do others want to hear? What do others want to talk about? And then they just try to blend in. And he came up with this term called herd. And maybe that's where the term herd mentality comes in. And so what his theory is that most of us, even if we have independent individual thoughts, we tend to suppress it, and we just go with the flow with what society expects from us. So now so he says that there is a paradox here. So society, though it says that it values intelligence, it uses this collective mechanism to suppress it, where it doesn't allow people to be authentic. It doesn't allow people to express themselves. And if they do express themselves, people react badly. So I just thought I'll share this also as another piece of research that I did. It is somehow connected to Jaḍa Bharata, because Jaḍa Bharata also um, is staying quiet because he doesn't want to engage with the world, because he's trying to find his true self. But actually, Jaḍa Bharata is a lot more than that. Actually, I'll just quickly wrap up and then we can have a conversation. We covered a few topics today. We saw Mahārāja Rahūgaṇa submitting to Jaḍa Bharata. And we also saw that Jaḍa Bharata established the falsity and the temporary nature of this material world. And Jaḍa Bharata also emphasized the power of devotee association and Krishna Katha for us to have a chance to progress in Krishna consciousness. Now I also try to bring in ways in which we can be sensitive to the Jaḍa Bharatas that we see around in society and the Jaḍa Bharata that is actually within all of us. So there is a small Jaḍa Bharata within all of us too. I would like to conclude with something that I heard His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj say in a talk at New Vrindavan this year, in July actually. So he said that Arjuna was already a realized person. But between the two armies of Kauravas and Pandavas, he took the role of a person who was confused and bewildered just to help us learn. And through the Bhagavad Gita that was taught to Arjuna, the entire world has an opportunity to learn. And from Mahārāja's statements, I'm just extrapolating from there that we can take this realization that Mahārāja Bharat, obviously we all know, was also a realized person who took the role of a renunciate, who took the role of somebody who got attached to a deer, who took the role of Jaḍa Bharat so that we can learn and we can learn from our mistakes, our struggles, any being discouraged, and we'll also learn from this life and teachings of Jaḍa Bharat to gradually take the shelter of Lord Krishna. So with that's all I had, prepared. But we can continue with this discussion if we have quite a bit of time also. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for giving me the chance to prepare for this.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Can you keep your screen on so we all can read and
Of course, yes.
kind of share thoughts, whatever we get.
Yes. Any particular slide?
I think, it depends on what devotees would want to think about. But yeah. It was a very nice class, I feel. Lot of, I guess, what was that? What economics?
Emotional
economics, yeah.
Emotional economics, yes.
Yeah, so I guess how, as devotees, how emotional economics works, as in the life of a spiritual seeker, is what you very nicely covered, and it was very wonderful. Yeah, a lot of research you've done, Carl Jung, Schopenhauer, and so very good. Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. I also had the good fortune that I didn't find a single class on this chapter. I was searching and searching. Usually I find classes given by somebody and I copy and paste. I couldn't find a single class, and so I was forced to do research on related topics.
Yeah.
So I hope this was useful in some way, and I was trying to connect it to to Mahārāja Rahūgaṇa and Jaḍa Bharata's conversation, and hopefully it was useful.
Yeah, no, definitely it was useful. And there are just, I guess, Bhagavatam pastimes are so wonderful that, every single pastime, there are so many nuances over there. And those nuances can give, shed light on so many aspects of our being, which is really wonderful. And at the same time, they raise our consciousness to go back to Krishna. So, yeah, that is the glory of Bhagavatam, and also the glory of devotees like you who can take that message of Bhagavatam, which might seem lofty, very lofty at times, and then but make it very accessible, and see how that relates in our own lives. So that was very, I guess, the special, I consider it the special aspect of your presentation today. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. And maybe I'll call on Nick. Nick is my classmate from college.
Oh,
He's known me the longest after my mother in this group. Maybe.
Krishnan, yeah, I'm really honored to be here. This is a fantastic experience. This being my first one with you, I've learned a lot, and I'm going to contemplate about all these things that you said, and I've taken some screenshots so I can save it and then reflect on them. Thank you, Krishnan. Yeah.
Actually, Nick, Gaur Kumar Prabhu has met Sam in New York.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
I met Sam at the Bhakti Center. Yeah.
Is it right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like he's kind of like veering towards being more involved spiritually, but he's still young. I'm just gonna let him take his own course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so Sam is also Krishnan Prabhu's friend. Krishnan Prabhu's and Nick's friend.
Nick's son is
Nick's son.
Oh, Nick's son. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so my name is actually Nikhil and my son's name is Samir. But every time he has questions around either his job or something professionally or spiritually, I think he calls up Krishna or texts him and not texts me. So he's like, he cuts me out. He cuts me out. He thinks Krishna is a smarter, better person to give him advice. That's a privilege, though. That's great.
Nice.
Cool. Thank you so much, Prabhu. And so we'll, if anybody has anything to share, we can do it, or we can wrap up. And
Yeah.
It was very nice class, Krishnan Prabhu. Very, very you weaved in the all these thoughtful, thought-provoking questions into this pastime. Yeah, like how yeah, we can go back to the first question that you asked also, like that was like very nicely weaved in. Yeah, come across such people as distant, aloof, right from there, and having the physical versus mental, the graph, making it the challenges that people go through and be aware of them, and also something that we may also be going through in ourselves. And the final point that you made sense to me is that there is everybody sorry, what did you say? I'm just trying to rephrase. There could be Jaɗa Bharata outside of ours in the society, and also a little bit of Jaɗa Bharata inside of us, right? Something like to that sense. It was really nice. I'm gonna reflect on that a little bit after the class, and see if I get some realizations. And also, um, I see that for the Bhakti philosophy, these philosophers from Carl Jung to Schopenhauer and others, they stop at some point, right? This it's just the self-discovery, and that's it. And uh, that's what the transcendental meditations, all that, stop at just self-realization. But at some point, we actually remain as individual. That is as a soul, right? That part only we understand it from a servitude perspective, from bhakti angle. Even as a soul, spirit soul, we are separate. And um, uh, it's very interesting, to kind of tie into this. Um, it's not just that, okay, we realize self and then we merge, but we actually remain as a separate individual being. And also, um, kind of, taking classes in compassionate communication and nonviolent communication, I just feel that, if you can go to the last slide about Schopenhauer. Uh, yeah. So, you know, these are the stigmas that we have in the society that we live in, where we have to be nice when somebody asks us, how are you doing, we will instantly say good, even though we might feel miserable or terrible inside of us. We never think to say our mind out just for simple how are you doing question, right? Sometimes it may be appropriate to just say good and be gone because it is just a passing conversation. But even in times where one of our friends is asking, or one of our colleague is asking, who we are close with, even at that moment we just stop ourselves and say, yeah, I'm good. We just brush it off, but we never actually express ourselves to say what is really going on within us. That's actually because we never try to um like be close to our feelings. We don't feel the feelings. If we did, then we would say, I'm feeling a little, when say, how are you feeling, how are you, doing this morning, I'm feeling a little, anxious. We never say that because we never think that we are anxious. We express symptoms of anxiety, but we never even sit down or reflect to think that, okay, I feel anxious, maybe I need some, you know uh, break from my stressful work, right? We never think to do that. So I guess if we get attached to our feelings and needs more consistently, then we can be more authentic to not only to ourselves but also to people around us whenever we interact with them, however it is, however passing the conversation is, or however involved the conversation is. That's just my thought. Hare
Yeah, I
Krishna.
remember Gautama Prabhu had also mentioned the similar concept about self-care. This was when I visited New York, when Chaitanya Charan Prabhu was there. You had mentioned it, Gautama Prabhu. I don't know if you recollect about how important self-care is for devotee care. I remember
Yes.
hearing
Mhm.
that's from you.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's all a part of self-care. Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Um, so thank you so much, Krishnan Prabhu. I really liked how much research you put in, and how you nicely connected this intelligence leads to isolation, and how you connected that with Jaḍa, and how you brought in this German philosopher. And there's also Kierkegaard. I don't know if you have heard of Soren Kierkegaard,
Yes, yes, yes.
a Danish philosopher.
Yes.
So he was also a very self-realized soul, actually. So the more we become broad-minded, the more we'll be able to accept these different philosophers' teachings and connect with our Srimad Bhagavatam, and in a very wonderful, brilliant way. Their view of reality, their view of God, and their understanding. Like, for example, one of my favorite quotes of Kierkegaard is that life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. So just this one sentence, there's so much depth in it, right? So life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. So, and another quote, a famous quote is, the greatest hazard of all is losing oneself. And it can occur very quietly in this world as if it were nothing at all. So, this is also very deep realization from Kierkegaard, because, and this so much lines up with our philosophy. He's saying that it's almost like saying the greatest danger in this world is to forget Krishna. And that's exactly what he's saying here. The greatest hazard of all is losing oneself. Like you lose yourself, your connection with God, and it can occur very quietly in this world, as if it were nothing at all. Nobody even thinks about, I mean, most people don't even think about spirituality. So he says that is the greatest hazard of all. So I really like how you presented today. And I also, it reminded me very much of Wisdom of the Sages, their nuggets, where they actually get these nuggets from these other philosophers and connect it with the Bhagavatam. So thank you so much, Prabhu, for taking the time and for being bold enough to present a class like this. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. It's, thank you so much for being accepting to this. I was connecting some random ideas, and I was also very nervous that was I staying true to the topic, and but great. Go ahead, Prabhu.
Vamshidhar Gopal, Prabhu.
Vamshidhar Gopal, Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Krishnan Prabhu. I think I always feel that there is very pleasing, assertive tone to your voice, which makes your talks very, very soothing to hear. That's my personal feeling. I think a lot of people will agree with this also. That I remember Anudvega Karam Vakyam. I think you speak with a lot of care and with your own realizations, with a lot of examples and the classes you hear and the sincerity with you share. I think it ends up inspiring all of us. And I think you touched very important topics in this class. Like, I think that made me really think about how the Chaitanya Charan Prabhu said, like, since there is for external disability, people sympathize, but internally, we may not be able to observe. But it is such a pandemic. People are going through so much around us. So I think your talk inspires us to like think about it, introspect over it, and do our part. So thank you so much for amazing class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. It's 10 o'clock, Gaurakumar Prabhu. So we can.
Prabhu. Thank you, all dear devotees. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyo cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Krishnan Prabhu ki jai.
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 Jai.